everyone. We should be live now. Welcome to our first stream. I know you were expecting Adam to be streaming, but unfortunately he's not feeling well, so we will be streaming instead. So let us introduce ourselves first. My name is Martin. I'm a software engineer at Polygonic. I deal with the automation and asset pipeline that we use.
My name is Karel. I am an architect and I work as a 3D artist at Polygonic, and my job is to deal with our clients, and I also work on our assets like Botaniq or Traffic.
Awesome. So the way this is going to work is we'll do some short demos in the beginning. So we would really appreciate if you queue up some questions that we can answer. Ideally, this would be very interactive. Like we're here to answer your questions.
Yeah, so I can start with some scene. Maybe I will show you Botaniq first. So here I open Blender and there's a plane. So first I can scale it maybe and subdivide it. And what more? Maybe we can do a pond in the middle using proportional editing. Oh, that should be alright for this. And first I'm gonna show you how to scatter with Botaniq. So here I will pick a preset that we prepared for you, so you don't have to pick every weed, every grass, and put it together. Maybe if it's a pond, so I will put there a swamp. Takes a while, and as you can see, the preset is everywhere, even in the hole that should be our pond. Okay. So how to solve this? I will use now maybe our feature recalculate density. Martin, could you explain to me how does it work?
Yeah,
because
so
you programmed it.
I don't think I did. I think it was actually this Deno who programmed this feature. So this is pretty handy. Generally, you have a plane of some size, and you can set the density, and it'll calculate the maximum particles for that size of the plane for you. So, for example, Karel here created a little meadow, but if he scaled it up and set the density and recalculate, it would figure out how many particles there should be to actually fulfill that density. So in our experience, this is better than setting max particles yourself, because you would have to have a calculator.
Okay. Yeah. So I just demonstrated it. And now I will use where is it? Paint. Okay. I will use weight paint to define where my preset should be, where the swamp is. Basically, what I can do here is go to edit mode. This.
So guys, there's a question. Romana asks, I have a question
Yes, we have plans for animated grass. It's in our pipeline. We are now working on a new product and also improving other products. We generally do short-term and long-term planning. Well, basically to answer your question, yes, this is coming. We just cannot promise when at this point, but it should be pretty soon.
So, as you can see, I just weight painted the scatter system on the plane. The hole is without the grass, and I will just spawn a cube there. And this will be just animated water, because in Materialiq we have animated water. It's pretty easy actually to spawn the material. I'm just gonna select it, and here is it prepared. I see pond and put it there. So that's my water. I think that you worked on. Are there any future plans for Materialiq, Martin? I think we can talk about that.
Yes, Materialiq is our first product that we released. We're working on an overhaul of it. We think that there's a lot of opportunity to make it much better. So that's one of the that's one of the projects we're focusing on now. And stay tuned. I don't want to talk about too many details, but in our internal testing, it looks pretty awesome.
The scene starts to be pretty heavy because I've got rendered preview and all the assets, so I will just hide them. Yeah, we got frozen now.
So there's another question. Nadim asks, hello, are there any plans for using geometry nodes for botanic scattering?
That's a very good question. It's something we're looking into. Our strategy is to support all the long-term supported versions of Blender, which includes 283 LTS and 293 LTS. These two versions, I mean, 293 supports geometry nodes to some extent, but it's been changed a lot in 3.0. So we have plans to use geometry nodes, but we will introduce this gradually. So instead of just switching how it works and dropping support for all these old versions, we will introduce some like optional features that only work on Blender 3.0 and newer. So basically, long story short, we don't have any plans to support the 293 geometry nodes, but we will support 3.0 geometry nodes while keeping the old particle system running as well for the time being. The 283 is not going to be supported anymore in June, I believe. So we will drop support at the same time that Blender Foundation drops support for 283. I hope this answers the question. We have several other considerations like this. We always try to support the stable versions of Blender because in our experience, people working on like long-standing complex projects like and productions, they have to keep using the same version of Blender. So we don't just want to pull the rug out from them. Yep.
Yeah. So what I have done here is that the scene was pretty heavy because I had a lot of assets in here. Unfortunately, in Botaniq, you can display only some small percentage of the system. So I set the display to 10, and I also display the assets as bounds. Now
All right, we'll take a short break because we have some technical difficulties switching the scenes. We'll be back in a minute or so.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. All right, we're back.
Yeah, you're back. So this small scene basically is a simulation of what we do when we create our project. Basically what I've done is this small plane with the scatter preset and then this bigger one. Many people at the beginning make one big mistake, which is that they scatter the grass all over the place. This is really not needed, and it can be pretty heavy on your computer, very demanding on your computer. So what we do is scatter what we need near the camera where it is seen or visible, and then further from the camera we put only materials like grass material, etc., and maybe some trees and so on.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Like internally in the company, we have we use NVIDIA 3090s, and we have pretty beefy computers. But at some point, like there's no hardware in existence that you can use. If you just blow your scene up to be super demanding, there's going to be nothing that can render it. So you have to watch out for this. We also this is our philosophy for the products as well. Like we try to give assets that look really good, but are also super efficient. So like sometimes people ask like, why doesn't this tree look really good in a close-up? It's because at least some of the assets are not designed for close-ups. They're designed to be scattered around the scene, and there can be hundreds of them, and we need it to still work. Yeah, anything else to add to this?
Not really. I think it's clear. Now I already showed you that I can use the presets, but I can also make my own scatter system. Just click here on new, make it, for example, forest. Scroll down here, and here you can pick up some assets from Botanic, from our categories. Like if I want to make a forest, I will go for some deciduous trees. Here, particle system density. But I can't find it now. It's unfortunate.
I think it's down there. You have to expand the objects.
Yeah, here, object.
Yeah.
We talked about that very recently, that we should put this up so it's visible. Even me, with all the stress here, I couldn't find it.
Even Karel, who's an expert at this, he couldn't find it. Yeah, we need to improve this.
There are two more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start from the bottom. Aya asks, hey, are you planning to release another add-on in the future, or are you focused on expanding what you already have?
Mm-hmm. That's a very good question. The answer is both of these. Our philosophy is to create really good, efficient add-ons and just keep working on them. So people who bought them in the past, they get all the future updates and all the value. But at the same time, we have plans to release more add-ons. We already have some internal builds, and we're very excited to announce it. But it's too early at this point, so I don't want to answer questions about like unreleased products at this point.
And the second question, which was kind of already answered by Adam in chat, but we can talk about it here as well, is by NPDan, and he asks if there is a plan to include a tree scatter, like specific scatter function for trees. If it would help him to save time, because all the trees could be saved in one add-on.
Mm-hmm. So, do you mean something like a preset for a forest? Or I'm not sure. Because right now when you want to scatter trees, you have to create your own system and then add the specific trees to it. I guess we could create presets for some common forests. I'm not sure if that would help or if that's the question.
Yeah, maybe then if you could specify the question some more, that would be helpful.
Also related to the previous question, we have plans to use geometry nodes for scattering in the future. There's some really cool possibilities with geometry nodes that the particle systems don't support. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, I found another feature that I wanted to show you, which is pretty good, I think. If you want to spawn multiple trees, and you like spawning them one after another, it can be like time demanding, time consuming, because if you want, for example, chestnut, and you want like more of them, and all should be chestnuts, there's a cool feature that you just spawn one of them, then select, then copy it, Alt D, I used Alt D, and then just select them all and click on randomize variant. That saves a lot of time. I did not have to spawn like every single variant, and now I have like basically 4 different trees to use in the scene, so it's not so monotonous. Guys, do you have another questions? Any more questions? For example, here the tree is still pretty similar, so I will click on random transform on this tree. Martin, could you explain to me how does it work exactly? Because I don't know. I think it works with the scale. No, it alters the scale of it and the shape also, maybe.
So it's just a trick. It's all fake. It literally only randomizes the transform, like mathematical transform, so the rotation and scale very slightly. When you spawn a lot of trees and they're in the background, and you can see that they're the same if they're oriented the same. But if you select, let's say, 20 of them and you randomize transform for all of them, it's going to be quite hard to spot that they're the same. So this is very handy for background. And similarly with the randomized variant, that's a really neat trick. Sometimes it can pick out like small and young trees, which might not fit the scene, so there's still some clicking you have to go through to tune your scene. And also you have to take care to duplicate them and keep them linked. That's another point that I wanted to make. Like, we go to great lengths to make it very efficient to use our products, because we use them in production ourselves, and like having duplicates of the same trees, it just fills up your RAM, and then you can't even render it. So we try to make everything linked and use instancing for everything.
Thank you. Now I know how it works.
We have one more question from
Awesome.
Entry. He says, "Hi there, Polygonic. It's so cool. How do you guys organize the teams? Do you people work on specific assets, or does everyone do everything?"
That's a really good question. So we have we actually grown quite a bit. When we started, it was just a couple people, but now we're 15 people in total. We're split into 3 teams. We have the team of artists, team of programmers, and a marketing team. In all these teams, I think generally people work on all the add-ons, but obviously they have a preference, and so sometimes like some people are more interested in cars, so they'll work more on traffic, and other people are more interested in vegetation, so they'll work on Botanic. I mean, I'm in the programmer team, so talking about that, we have to handle like all of these add-ons, and a lot of the code is actually shared between them. For example, spawning assets in Botanic, the code is quite, I mean, it's more complex, but it's still quite similar to traffic. I'm hoping I answered all parts of the questions. Can you repeat that to make sure?
Sure. The question was, how do people organize the teams? And do some people work on specific assets, or does everyone do everything? So maybe you could talk about the organization of the teams as well?
We like planning, I guess.
Yeah.
So we initially we didn't plan much. We would just do some cool work and then release it. But over time we discovered that this doesn't really work very well. So now we're doing some short-term and mid-term planning. So we always plan the next release based on user feedback, especially from Discord, but also other sources. Like when people tell us that they would like a new feature or a new asset, we put it in our ticketing system, where we track the work that we need to do. When we plan a new release, let's say a new Botanic release, we will pick out the tickets that had the most voices from users, or that we feel are the most important, and we'll assign them to people, so the assets will get made and the code will get written so that all this is supported. And we always try to like aim for some date, but we've discovered that it's very difficult, because you can discover that you have some blocking problems last minute. Sometimes it's even out of our control, like a new Blender version gets released and they break some API that we're using, and we have to fix it last minute. So sometimes the releases get postponed. But I feel like we're getting better at planning.
Yeah, it is much better than it used to be.
Yeah, it was pure chaos. And also related to this, like if you have any feedback for either new assets or new features, let us know on Discord. It's probably the best way to reach us.
Yes, we try to answer your questions quickly in days.
Yeah, just keep in mind that we also have a life, so if you ask on like midnight on the weekend, it may take a few days.
Alright, awesome guys. Next question is from Tommy. He says, where do you see Polygonic in 5 or 10 years?
I think we're definitely taking over the world. So 5 years is quite a lot. Like our growth has been like better than we expected. We're very grateful for your support. Like we couldn't do any of this without all the support of the community. We have some very ambitious projects planned for the next couple of years. We'll see how they work out. Basically, we try to stay like self-funded and hire more talented artists and programmers, and make even better products. We also have another line of our business where we do visualizations. We do architecture visualizations, but also product visualizations and VFX. So could be ads or short movies. So we're also scaling that up. We found out that this helps a lot in designing our products. Since we also use them internally, it gives us a lot of feedback how to make them better for production work. So in 5 years, I would expect us to have at least twice as many people. We also have some tentative plans to open another office in another. So we're based in in Czechia. I'm not sure if you mentioned that before. Currently, we only have an office in Prague, but we already have some people on the team that are reluctant to move to Prague. For some reason, they don't like it. So we have plans to open another office in Brno and hire some of the people there.
So Gempri, thanks for your comment. As well as Tommy, he says, I didn't realize Polygonic was a toddler.
Toddler.
Yeah.
Not sure about toddler. I feel like we've we're actually, it's becoming quite a big company. That's like we have to plan now and we have to like do meetings and everything. So to me it feels I mean it feels like we're grown quite a lot.
So Martin, while you were answering the questions, I was playing with the render set now, which is, I think it's the most underestimated add-on that we made, because it's a huge time saver, and time is money. So, so it saved us a lot of time and money on our own projects. Basically, as you can see, I can switch between cameras and views pretty quickly. So the scene is not that good, but I think it's enough to show you how it works. Basically, I made four contexts, and I can now switch between them, and every one of them has its own camera. For example, this is a floor plan, and what's more, I can press render all, and Blender will render, or render set will render all the contexts and then save them into separate files, which is a huge time saver. I remember I used to set alarms for midnight and to switch between renders and so on. It was terrible. Now I just, when I'm going home, I just click on render all and it's done. In the morning I can do my Photoshops.
So Gentry has a follow-up question. He asks, one other thing I'm curious about too, do you guys ever work with academic institutions like botanists to check the realness of assets, or solely use them in teaching? So do we ever work with real botanists to check the realness of the assets?
So I'm pretty sure we do, but Karel, can you answer this one? Because you probably have more information about this.
Yes, we worked with one botanist who helped us with the with the correct naming and categorizing the trees, and all the trees should be like one-to-one to the real trees, and I think that now we also work with some 3D enthusiasts that are botanists, no? As that the new assets are made by contractor that is a botanist.
Yeah, in terms of collaborating with educational institutions, so Adam, who unfortunately cannot be here because he's sick, he teaches Blender at the Czech Technical University.
Yeah, that's how I met him, by the way. He was my teacher and then offered me a job. And to be honest, like the trees, they are trade-off, no? Like the quality of the assets, the assets are not that heavy, so you can use them without any problems on your laptop. But at the same time are pretty good, I think. I remember that when I was doing my diploma thesis or work, I put there botanic trees, and I put there like the right one. Like I made a floor plan of a park, and I put there botanic trees, and those were like the chestnuts, like apple trees, and so on. So I think we are improving in that actually. That we want to work with landscape architects and so on, and we want to provide them with high quality trees, and basically we want the visualizations be like one-to-one, like with the reality. We don't want to lie in our visualizations.
Yeah, I think that's actually one of the big advantages is you can just spawn our assets and you don't have to scale them or like change the colors or anything. They should work well with each other. And also, like one more thing with the collaboration with educational institutions, if you want to get our add-ons a little bit cheaper, you can sign up to study at the Czech Technical University and you can get some discount once you enroll in the Blender course.
Alright, there's new question. How do you guys plan to improve documentation for the add-ons?
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually a very timely question. So we've realized that the quality of your documentation is not great. We've used Google Docs for a long time to like describe how to install it and how to use it. And we've received a lot of feedback from you that it's all over the place and you cannot find it and it's not organized very well. So we've invested quite a lot of time and we've reworked all of this. I'm not sure if it's been announced already on our social media, but we already have the links to the new documentation on the product pages, so you can check it out there. It's docs.polygoniq.com, so docs.polygoniq.com is the landing page where you can click on all of our released add-ons and get the latest documentation. So yeah, there's been a huge overhaul like a week ago, and we'll announce it on all of our channels quite soon, I believe.
Yeah, I think that the new documentation is pretty neat. It's graphically very pleasing, and I think that it's a huge improvement. I hope there will be less questions on Discord because of that, and if there are some, I can just like put there the link to our documentation, and it should solve it. Okay, so I just now spawned a cylinder and a cone, and there's another very cool feature in the render set. If I can hide collections between the contexts, as you can see here. Everything is visible in bird's eye. I've hidden the main collection, but I can also go to preferences and add-ons, render set, and click on store object visibility state. It could be demanding on your computer if you have a really huge scene with thousands of objects, of meshes, but here it will be fine. And I can just select these and hide them here, and render set should remember that. It does not. What's the problem here?
The problem is that you need to use the collection.
No, this should avoid the collection.
So I know what the problem is. I can explain it. So this is a common source of confusion in render set. So if the context doesn't remember the objects because it was not asked to store the state before. So like one easy workaround is to click store object visibility and then cycle through all the context so they all remember it.
Okay.
Because if you switch the context and the context doesn't know about your objects, it won't do anything with them. We have some plans to improve this, maybe to like show a dialogue and say, you know, there's a con there and it's not stored in the context, so we probably added it. Do you want to show it in this context or not? That would probably improve this user experience. Yeah, that's something that we plan for the next release.
Yeah, it works already, by the way. So
yeah, it works after you cycle through the contexts, because like each context will remember all these details. But if you change some settings, all all the other contexts that are not active, they're not affected.
Yeah, one quick tip again, as you can see, when I was modeling this ground, I made a horizon going down there. So when I see it, so the horizon is it's not just like a straight line. When I preview all the assets, you would see it adds reality to your scene if you see like the different heights of the trees, like the trees are like going there. It happens very often with people that they just make a plane and scatter trees, and it doesn't seem, it seems a bit off then.
Right, there's one more question from Aya. She asks, what are your favorite places in Prague?
Karel, you want to take this?
Yeah.
So I'm not the architect here.
Well, there are many. If you plan to visit Prague, like I would really recommend Charles Bridge. Charles Bridge and the Prague Castle. The Prague Castle is one of the biggest in Central Europe, I guess. Like the complex. And it's really beautiful. And if you want some like tips for, not for tourists, but for ordinary people, then you can visit us.
Yeah, just avoid absinthe and trdelník. It's
yeah, that's
you'll be fine.
Scams and traps.
And what about your favorite places, Martin?
So I really like, I don't like the old town. I mean, it's nice, you go there, you see the bridge and you see the castle, but I think some of the other districts are much nicer. I would recommend visiting Davice and Holešovice, but also Vinohrady, where our office is. There's a lot of really cool cafes and restaurants. It's usually much more affordable and much less crowded. But generally, like, for some reason, tourists don't really go there. Should I actually say this? I mean, will this become a problem for us? No, seriously, you should. I would recommend going to Vinohrady, Holešovice, and Davice, and these other districts. There's a lot of really cool stuff there, and it's not as crowded.
I will change the HDRI because this one is it's really too strong, and we have in Materialic we also have like HDRIs, so I think there's one called Forest Steamer, which I might use.
Which is your favorite HDR, Karel?
It depends. Like Forest Steamer, it's my. Now we made a lot of interior scenes, like for product. It was like product visualizations, and I needed like behind the window. I needed a scene that was in winter or not very like strong. So I used this Forest Steamer a lot. So I will summon it now. So what should I show you next? Is there anything that you would like to see?
Again, Chris says the render looks great. And Adam said that his favorite place is Grigory Sady, Náplavka, and Bioko.
Bioko. Náplavka is really good. It's the riverbank basically. and you can walk there. It's paved, and there are many bars in there. So
Yeah. Good choice. Good choice.
And a lot of seagulls. Yeah, I put forest debris there.
You could show something from traffic.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm not sure
Maybe-
how it would fit in the scene.
Yeah, anything goes.
Maybe we can put a bike in there or something.
And traffic. I think that Botanic was our first add-on, isn't or Material
Or
it was.
Material was,
first.
yes.
Then Botanic. And traffic is the last one. We have ships, and there's a pond.
So hopefully we don't show any secrets now. It's like we use internal builds in the company. So maybe you'll see, if you really pay attention, maybe you'll see some assets that are coming down the line. But Karel will be careful.
Yeah, and there's this one Gumotex. I'm really proud of it because I made it. And it's a Czech boat, basically.
So there's a interesting question from Yamazaki. Can you talk more about render set? I don't understand what it does.
Mm-hmm. So maybe to give a very brief introduction into it. So render set is really useful if you do production work, like commercial production work. You can set up different views. You can basically set up 4 different cameras or even more, like different renders from the same scene. When you adjust the scene, you can re-render all of them. The reason why we created it, like very often we have clients who ask for a scene, and then later on they say, oh, can you move this tree around, or can you make the sky different, or can you move the street? And they want all these views re-rendered. And without render set, you have to go in and like set the resolution and set the camera, click render, and then when the render finishes, you have to go in again, set it again. So render set solves exactly this problem. I mean, maybe Karel can show the context again, maybe the names. We usually set up like a floor plan view, so you render from the top, and he also set up like a render of the pond and the bird's eye and water. The cool thing is, if you select water and you change something about the resolution, or you change something about collection visibility, it'll remember it only in the water context, and then when you switch to something else, it remembers what you set up in, for example, bird's eye or pond. Like one problem that we have with render set is that it's kind of difficult to explain, but we've had really good feedback from people who use this for production work. Like we've even seen some crazy use cases where people have one blend file but 200 render set contexts in it to like render, for example, board game figurines or stuff like this. So you can do all sorts of things. I mean, if I had to explain it really quickly, it's like having multiple blend files in one blend file, kind of.
Yeah, but it's a good point that we also use it while we are creating our assets. Because, for example, in Botanic, many times you need, like, you have different parts of the flower, for example, and then you want to make an alpha plane out of it or something like that, so you can render it, and I will just show you quickly, very quickly, how I use it. So I will make new contexts. Flower 1, and then there's flower 2, 3, and 4. Maybe I will first. You can also copy between the contexts, like the settings of the context, you can copy between them. (6) 25. So now I'm in this context, in this camera, and I'm modeling or I'm doing one asset, and maybe I want to make it into another version, so I copy the asset next to it with the camera. Yeah, that's a bit messy now. And make some changes to it, and this camera goes to this context. And basically, when I'm modeling, I can switch between the contexts and the models pretty quickly. If you know what I mean.
Thanks for the explanation. Actually, Adam Chrysler has a question.
Yeah.
He asks, why don't we enable view for denoising and mist and fill the ground with some more grass?
Yeah, it's
Those are good questions.
we can enable support it because it's Adam's Blender and it was turned off by default.
Yeah, render set will also remember like which render engine you use, which resolution, like the focal length, or like which camera you use. So like most people use it to switch between cameras, and the big advantage is if you change the scene and you have one context set during the day, another set during the night, you have different views from different angles, you can change the scene, maybe like delete the car or something, and then just press render all, and all the different views will be updated. You don't have to go in and manually like re-render every single one of them. And before we had render set, like we would even do this in Photoshop sometimes to save time. Because it was so painful to go in and change the resolution again and change the camera again, and also since it's manual work, we would mess it up and we would like forget to change the focal length, like when you have to do like 5 different views, and when the client endlessly asks to like move something around again and like make, I don't know, make the sky darker or something.
Yeah, that's true. We had a client that wanted like the same room and with different type of beds, with different pictures on the walls and so on. So we had the one camera that was fixed, but we had multiple contexts. And one was like when the walls were like green, one was when the walls were beige and so on. And I could like really quickly switch between them, and the render set saved it all and remembered it, and like 1 month after that I could open the scene and render 15 types of the room like instantly. Without the render set I would have like to remember it all, like this camera should be without that, and it would be real messy. Just saving the render, it's really time consuming.
And some people use multiple scenes in the blend file for this purpose, but that has some disadvantages. Like you cannot share everything between the scenes. So for us, this is just it's a huge time saver. And we received feedback from other people who do commercial work in Blender that this has saved them so much money and time. We even joked that even though render set is like not our most popular product and didn't gross as much revenue as the other products, like internally we probably saved more money than we made with render set. And sometimes we even overdo it because it's so easy to like render all the views again that we'll make some minute change to make it even a little bit nicer and just render everything because we can, and we don't have to go in and change all the resolutions and change all the cameras.
Right, one more question. What hardware do you guys use for Blender?
We generally use NVIDIA GPUs. I think only, like I have an AMD GPU, but that's because I hate myself and I want all these problems with the AMD GPUs. But everybody else has NVIDIA. We use 3090 or 2080 Ti. For CPUs, we generally use the Ryzen CPUs. but we also have some Intel CPUs. Like that's for us, that's not really a big difference. But yeah, we use optics, NVIDIA optics for all the renderings and Cycle 6. Yeah, and as much RAM as we can afford. Basically, we throw a lot of money at the problem so that we can get lazy and not optimize too much, but you still have to optimize if you want to make big scenes. Because even a 3090 doesn't fit everything. If you are really lazy and you copy everything, even a 3090 will blow up.
Yeah. I think that we have like 64 of gigabytes of RAM, no?
Yeah.
Not more. Maybe one computer is 90s.
I think this has like 128.
128 even.
Even, yeah.
But even with the biggest scenes that we made, it like we did not need that much. Like I think like the maximum was like something like 40 maybe.
And
because
for like creating the scene, it's not a huge deal. But then when you want to render and you want to render an animation, then the 3090 really shines.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So there is one more question. Hello, hope I caught your stream in time. Do you have any plans on integrating Polygonic into Scatter, even at the basic level?
It's a very good question. We've looked into it and we're in contact with the Scatter team. We have an internal prototype for the scat pack, but it's not working 100% yet. And we just haven't had the time to finish this. But yes, we would like to enable scattering our assets in Scatter. I think that, I mean, our users have asked about that, and I think it'll be a worthy feature. But it just, we didn't finish it yet. Something that's coming.
Okay. So I switched to traffic now, and wanted to show you our balloons that Jan made.
And maybe while you're setting up the balloon, like one more thing about the scatter. The scatter 5 uses a different philosophy from us. Like we generally will have very small, compressed, optimized blends that link from other blends, so that when you spawn one asset, you have to read a low amount of files and it spawns pretty quickly. Whereas in scatter, people usually organize it into like big blend files that contain a lot of objects. We have a workaround for this, but that's like one of the challenges that we have to deal with to have scatter support. Other than that, it's just about creating the scat pack, like the index, and that shouldn't be a big deal.
ESD, the author of the question, replies, "Good to hear you guys are in touch. I'm sure most people could do without the proxy models too if needed." Just to say, we have 4 minutes left. So if you guys have any more questions in the chat.
They keep them coming.
As you can see, changing color in traffic is really easy, and I can even make it random, which is really helpful if you have a street with many cars and you just like copy them or even like put them there randomly. The color will be like random, so it breaks the scene a bit and helps you achieve realism.
And this is another example where we had to make a trade-off. Like some people have asked us, can you have like different types of paint jobs, maybe like matte paint versus glossy? And we don't support this because we want to have all the assets instanced. And we cannot have as many inputs into the instant asset. So we have like one common paint job for all the assets, and you can just set the color. We believe that this is probably the better trade-off if you want to spawn a lot of cars or like a lot of signposts or other things from traffic. You don't want to make all of them editable just so that you can change the paint job.
Okay, so that's it. Thank you for your attention and see See you next time.
Yep. Thank you for all the questions. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.